My name is Maureen Murphy. I serve as the president of the College of Southern Maryland, and we're here to talk about a really exciting new venture, the CSM Velocity Center. I noticed that a lot of you have been clustered around some of the photographs. This is a project that's been a long time coming. And so what we're going to do today is give everybody an update on our progress, where we've been and where we're going. But before we get started, I would like to turn the podium over to our mayor, Brandon Paulin.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. And welcome to the beautiful and revitalizing town of Indian Head. Yeah. As you can see by the pretty pictures, there are fun things happening here in Indian Head, and every time people drive in from out of town, they say, oh, something new's happening down there, or something new's happening down there, and that makes me happy because we always want something new happening in Indian Head. To give you a brief update about Indian Head's revitalization, just have a few points. Our zoning ordinance will be approved very soon. Our youth recreation center is underway. Thank you to our state delegation for the $200,000 during this session. The boardwalk is entering the final stages and looks to break ground soon. Restrooms on the rear of the Village Green will break ground soon as well. And we're working with the United Way of Charles County to see how we can bring services to Indian Head. So, over the summer, we'll be creating a clear and concise visioning plan, putting it all together, and we're going to call it our revitalization plan. We'll outline short-term and long-term initiatives such as streetscaping 210 and assisting current redevelopment in any way possible. Redevelopment like we have at the old Eli's building, which is now the Velocity Park. Thank you, Charles. And Charles will tab on that a little bit more, as well as, we'll tab on the Velocity Center during this whole meeting. So I'm going to stop saying things and exit so the more important people can talk. So you guys have a great day. If you haven't already, check out some of Clarity Coffee Shop after this. Some great food. If you haven't already been in there, it's awesome. All right, y'all have a good one.
Well, thank you. Thank you. So a lot of good things are going on here in Indian Head, and one of those things is the CSM partnership with the Navy in the Velocity Center. This has been a project that predates my tenure and has really taken shape, I think, maybe over the past 18 months as we've refined what it is that we're really trying to do. Many of you who, I see a lot of faces of people who have been part of this project from the very beginning, and you know how our thinking about what the Velocity Center was and what it might do has shifted as we've moved along. At first it was going to be all things to everyone, but then when we realized we had a 13,000 square foot warehouse, we realized it can't be all things to everyone. But it is taking shape. It's exciting to come down 210 and to start to see something that is starting to really look like something. And I think over the next weeks, it's even going to look prettier. So I'm very, very excited, and I'm very proud of where we've come. On our end, the brainchild was Tommy Luganbill, who's the director of our Entrepreneur and Innovation Institute. And I'd like to invite Tommy up to the stage just to give a brief update on his thinking. So Tommy.
Good morning. I just want to start out by saying congrats to the mayor and the council who just recently got reelected. Congrats. I appreciate the kind words. I think Brainchild would insinuate that I thought of this, which I did not. I know that something similar to this has been in the works for a very long time. I like to think that myself and a lot of us are the product of good timing and taking the opportunity and moving forward with it. It has evolved a lot, but I will say that a lot of the things have stayed the same. I'm gonna walk off the cuff a little bit here. I think what you'll see is that one of the main ideas that we started out with was having a large space. Something similar to this, not to compete with this space, but something where you could have up to about 200 people. So that's still the same. You do have a dedicated area for classrooms. The idea was that we could actually take some of the classes that we formed with the school and the Navy and say, okay, well, let's start out by having classes right from the get-go. Instead of having them in La Plata or Leonardtown, start having them in the Velocity Center. And then the third thing that still looks relatively the same is this idea of a makerspace. This is not to be an incubator, this is not to be an accelerator, it's a makerspace. And there's a lot of different things you can do with this. You can have people from the community, hobbyists, they can come in and use the space. You can have a robotics team like CSM has, they can make robots. And then you can have people who work for the base that maybe on off hours they want to tinker with a private project or work on something that maybe is a little bit outside of the swim lane. But in general, we have found a little more focus recently, and I know there's still a lot of people who have a lot of different ideas, but the important thing is that it's coming to fruition, and Charles, thank you. I saw the actual skeleton of the front of the building going up. You cannot believe how happy that made me today. Because this has been a long process, and there's a lot of people that are to be thanked for that. Cannot name all of them today, but of course the school, CMI, and the base, the county, and the town. You guys are the primary stakeholders here, so thank you. And other than that, I was talking last night, and this is the last thing I'm going to say, I promise. I think there's this fallacy that things are going to ever be complete, right? There's this idea that, oh, we just need to get the building built. And then once the building's built, everything's great. We just need to build the Velocity Park. Once the park's built, everything's great. What I've learned being in education is that the learning never stops. And I know that applies to everything in life. And while things will grow and continue to prosper here, it will never be the end. So Brandon, sorry, buddy. It just keeps going. Anyway, I've talked enough. Charles, hopefully I took up enough time. He doesn't want to talk a lot today. And I do thank everybody. If I did not name you, you know who you are. I appreciate all the help, and it's been a pleasure to be working on this project. So thank you.
I'm Bill Comey. I'm Vice President for Operations and Planning at the college. So my title will pretty much tell you what my job is in relationship to this project. I'm working with the architect now and eventually the builder to make this concept a reality. The folks that are in my area at the college are the facilities folks, the IT folks, the public safety folks, the conference and meeting services folks. So once the building is up and running, I'll also be over here quite often helping to make sure the building is running and that it's meeting the needs of our Navy partners and the community. What I was asked to say a few words about today is where we are in the process. So some of you know some of this. I'm going to start at ground zero, though, for some of you that are coming into the project just now. So this past fall, we went out with a RFP for design services to help us take our concepts and turn them into reality. We had several architects bid on helping us do the build out for the building. Our landlord is giving us a nice shell, but inside there are no walls and nothing. So we had several architects bid on that process. We actually selected our landlord to serve as to provide architectural services, and that's CMI. And their lead architect is Jerry Yoakum, and Jerry's here with us today, and he'll be available to answer questions later on this morning. So after we had an architect on board, started meeting with our stakeholders, met with our Navy partners, and found out what their needs were, met with our academic affairs folks at the college to see what their vision was for using the facility, met with our continuing education folks to see what their vision was for using the facility. We've taken all of those ideas and concepts and we've started developing a design. I think when you came in, there was a handout. If you didn't get it then, you could walk away with one. It starts to show how we're taking those thoughts and those needs and moving them into a design for the building. That design is going to honor the history and the heritage of the building. It's a warehouse. So it's going to feel like a warehouse when you walk in. A very nice, upscale, hip warehouse if we are successful. But it'll have exposed ceiling. It'll have polished concrete floors. It'll have metal and wood and steel, so that it's going to feel like what it is, but it's going to be very nice space. It's going, as Tommy said, large meeting room. We think that in an auditorium setting, we could get 280 folks in the room. So it'll provide a facility that Indian Head, a second large meeting facility like this one for Indian Head, but slightly different than this. Have quite a bit more technology than the pavilion has in this space. It'll have projection technology and connection to the internet with high-speed service that we can beam in conferences and teleconferences from around the world for meetings. Lots of support services in the building to help with that as well. But that's going to be a very flexible space, which we plan on using for lots of different things. You'll hear a little bit more about how we might use that space from Dr. Abel in a few minutes. Otherwise, Tommy mentioned some of the other spaces in the building. We see this as a blend of spaces that will serve the Navy primarily, and spaces that will serve the college, and spaces that will serve the community and the contractors. There'll be areas in the building that can be reserved by contractors or business people for a day or a week, so short-term rentals of some office space, some flex space. There'll be a nice conference space in the building that folks can use. So that's where we're heading. Timeline. We've started that design process. We hope to finish that design in the month of June. Permitting will start then. We'll be working with the nice folks with the town. I'm sure the mayor will help us with that process. If all goes well with finishing up the design and getting our permits, we'll start construction in August. And if that goes well, we'll be in the building first of the year. We're in the process now of looking at the furniture for the building, making sure that it's flexible and meets our needs. So along the way this fall, we'll be finalizing that, ordering the furniture, and if a good plan comes together, I'll be seeing all of you at a ribbon cutting in January for that building. I think that's all I'm going to say right now about that. We'll be around to answer some questions a little bit later.
I was at a JC scholarship event last night in this sort of long 2-week period that we have of celebrating our student achievement. And I met an incoming student who's going to be majoring in mechanical engineering who has family here in Indian Head. And his first question to me was, so what's going on with the Velocity Center? And I kept saying, well, if you get involved with the robotics club, you too can be there to help build robots. But just so you know, so the buzz is really out there. It's out there for a lot of people. And it was just really, it was interesting last night sort of having the student talk about what he wanted to do and why he was excited about that, again, for his family as well as himself. And then to come here this morning and know that I was going to be speaking to you, Lou, about some programming. So you heard mention of how some of the space was going to be used, and I think we put it into 3 fairly large categories, and I thank the people at CSM who helped gather some of these ideas together. These are not necessarily set in stone. These are things that we've talked about. These are possibilities, and as things shape up, we know that we will meet the community needs and the CSM needs as necessary. So first, let me just mention a few of the community, general, and naval programming, again, that's sort of been out there that we think that we can support and want to bring in. TEDx Talks, you all know what the TED Talks are. Those are really exciting, innovative ideas. People gather together, talk a little bit about everything from technology, education, and design, and business. This would be a great venue for things like that. Cyber and gaming. We don't have a gaming club at the college, but we do have a cyber club, and I'll talk about that more in just a minute. But to have competitions, particularly in middle and high schools at the center, would be amazing. Software-defined radio workshops, which we're already working on, collaboration with the Navy and Penn State. Arduino programming classes, Navy technology showcases, Navy professional development workshops, prototyping space, hands-on meetings for the Navy, recruiting events, and some summer internship programs. So one of the things that the college is doing right now is in the process of hiring an endowed professor for innovation, which is partially funded through a MEEF grant. And this individual will be connecting state, national, and international innovators to programming that we're going to be offering at the college. And one of the things that this individual will do is to work specifically with Morgan State University to bring graduate students down here for some summer internship to work, and they're excited about that. So that's the first category. Second category, CSM credit and continuing education classes. CAD, computer-aided design, cybersecurity in multiple levels, digital photography, drones, small unmanned aircraft systems, procurement and contracting services, social entrepreneurship, and tech transfer entrepreneurship. The latter two classes we already offer at the La Plata and Leonardtown campuses. I know that the people who teach those are excited to have those actually closer to the base. They'll be excited to offer those at the center. We also have an international award-winning robotics team at CSM. We've just achieved 11th place in the international competition in Louisville just a few short weeks ago. They're going to be doing a presentation today for the Board of Trustees. Their robotics.
USC.
They beat USC. There you go. They beat USC. 2 years ago, they beat Purdue. So it's a small club, but a high achieving club. And again, it's exactly what the young man was asking me about last night. So they'll have the opportunity to collaborate in different spaces in an innovative lab space at the center. We also have a cyber club that has been rated third in the state by an international cyber group. So we're on the cutting edge of some of those things, and we're excited to connect students again to some real innovative spaces, and we hope people at the center when it opens. So the third thing is makerspace. You all have seen makerspaces, I'm sure, across the country. It's a real exciting way for us to connect the community to the innovation that we hope to encourage, particularly for younger people. So kindergartners, makerspace workshops for activities for kids in 1 through 6th grades, nice opportunity for them to come and do some workshops, hands-on activities, some tech transfer stuff, again, sometimes related to the class, or opportunities for people in the community to come and do some makerspace building. Fabrication labs, 3D printers, laser cutters, soldering station. Those are things that people aren't going to have at home, but the possibility to come in and to do some creative work in a space that is available to them on an as-needed basis, we hope will really generate a lot of activity. Robotics workshops, drone workshops, CAD modeling, simulations, and some app development. So I suspect that list is not comprehensive. I suspect it will grow and change over the next couple months as we move forward with completing the programming here. I had a meeting with Chris Adams. We were sitting up here looking at the map, and I know that they're going to be looking at some strategic planning around programming. What specific needs are they going to need to identify in order for us to meet the programming needs that they require? So it's really exciting. I think the flexibility behind what this can make available to the community, to the college, and to the Navy is really extraordinary. And I commend everybody in the room who has put all of their good thinking and ideas behind this. It's really, I think, it's a great thing for Charles County and for the College of Southern Maryland and for the Naval Partnership. So stay tuned. Let me please introduce Dan Pines, one of our partners in crime here, who is the Chief Innovation Officer at NSWC. Dan, come on up.
Good morning. I'm excited now. I'm ready to go. So first, thank you, Dr. Murphy, for hosting us today, and thank you for all of this. So I'm Dan Pines. I'm NSWC Indian Head's EOD Technology Division Chief Innovation Officer. And as I sort of jokingly introduced in the back, it's all my fault, right? Really my boss's fault. So we've been doing the Innovation Lab gig for about 3 years. And when we first started it, we didn't want to call it Innovation Lab because it's not a very innovative name, so we settled on Velocity Lab. And so you see that motif kind of come out here with Velocity Center. We really like it. Velocity means time and direction. This idea of not just doing things fast because we want to do them faster, but this idea they're led by some strategic guidance or a purposeful process. So hence the Velocity Lab term. But Velocity Lab also doesn't mean anything. You can't walk up to a stranger on the sidewalk and say, I run the Velocity Lab, because they're going to, okay, what is that? So Velocity Lab to us is 3 pillars. It is projects, spaces, and content. So back on base, in terms of our projects, I oversee about 14 smaller, riskier internal projects. This is for our workforce to say, hey, Dan, I got this idea, can't really get funding for it. I'm not sure how it relates to big Navy work or small Navy work. They can come to me, we can essentially give them a little bit of money, seed money to start that idea. And this idea of exercising this creative muscle, shortly and fastly and agilely is what we're trying to incentivize with this on-base velocity lab. So if I got this project, so I have a nice portfolio of cool technology, good base, workforce interacting with us. Where do they do it in, right? So about probably 18 months ago, we built the Velocity Lab. And if I could, I would punch down this wall, walk us all over, and I'd show you what my space looks like. But I'll describe it with sort of hand puppets right now. Much like you saw out here, the core concepts, we didn't invent. They are mature and they exist in the outside world. There's this idea of open spaces where your workforce can gather and interact and collide. The idea of some closed spaces. Sometimes you need to close a door and have a private meeting or a classroom or a quiet space. Workshops. This is where on base where we host a lot of our classes, where we invite our speakers. We do our brown bags in there. We do our VIP luncheons. We're hosting Dr. Blake from ONR in about 3 hours from now in my Velocity Lab. Equally mixed with a cool prototyping space. I say cool, so some of you have seen it, or some of you have worked in it, this idea of readily access to the equipment Dr. Abel talked about, 3D printing, laser cutters, software-defined radios, at hand. They don't have to go acquire it, do the paperwork to do it. It's already there to begin experimenting on. And so once you have an open space, a closed place or a classroom space mixed with prototyping, that's really the home, that's the center of gravity for innovation or Velocity Lab. So beyond that, if we just built it, cool, why? What's the so what? What does my command get? What is our national security need for it? It really comes down to two things. One, an increase in the number of collaborative projects. Our workforce wants to work together. We want to incentivize them to work together. We should see more projects, more technology, more mission impactful weapons and life-saving technology. In addition to, we need to be able to do that. So that's recruiting and retaining, right? If we don't have the workforce and the knowledgeable workforce, it doesn't matter if it's a great idea, it can't get executed. So a nice modern space to pull in our workforce is one main reason for doing this. What we do now in our new hire tours is they come to Velocity Lab. They hear me give the kind of similar spiels I just gave you on what a Velocity Lab is. And I point outside the gates and I say, good news, we're expanding too. Right, we're sort of bumping up against our walls on my on-base one. We want to come outside our gates. We want to do all those things I just talked about and more. Technology transfer. So this is the idea of the government, there's sort of two types of technology transfer, spin on. That's where the government kind of goes out and we identify a novel technology and we want to bring it into our lab to experiment with. And then spin off, that's where the government has patented and developed a technology, but it really needs to exist in the outside world. We need to commercialize it. And so Dr. Chris Wilhelm, who I don't think is here today, is our ORDA. He's our technology transfer officer. It's part of his job, it's a big part of his job to exercise those muscles out in our community. I'll end with, last Friday we had Rear Admiral Verhaeg. We ended our tour of him on base, introducing him to what Indian Head does in the Velocity Lab. So I told him all that great stuff, how we're reinventing the workforce. And I pointed outside the gates and I said, sir, when you leave today, you're going to see Velocity Center on the fence line. So that is our local community helping us support our mission and thus helping you support our mission. And that's a really great narrative. Is you didn't just come to NSWC Indian Head to see how we're supporting your mission, sir. It's really how our community is kind of stepping up to drive the point home. Thank you. And who am I introducing? Charles, okay.
Dr. Murphy, you know how to put on a party, don't you? I come back in from out of town and there's 100 people here. It's quite impressive. So I'm Charles McPherson. I'll try to be brief and I'll be around for questions later, and so will Jerry if you want to go over anything specific on the project as far as we're concerned. Very excited about being part of this. It's kind of a privilege in so many ways. Everybody needs to make money, but some things are a little bigger than that, right? And this is a legacy type project, a thing where you feel like hopefully you're doing something that's also good for the community at large. And I can't think of anything more important than this. In my opinion, and I've thought this for a long time, our biggest asset business-wise is this base. We have to do whatever it takes to support them and help them to be successful. Not that they need a whole lot of help from us, but it doesn't hurt, right? Too many jobs are involved, and quite frankly, I've thought for quite some time it's the one place in this county where we can really bring in jobs that aren't just retail jobs. Nothing wrong with retail, nothing wrong with, you know, people having a place to live, but we need a place where the people that live here can go to work, have more quality time with their families. They're not all driving, you know, into the city or Northern Virginia. There's just so many good things that come out of that. I was privileged, you know, when my kids were coming up, that I worked locally and I could make it to all their ball games and whatever it was, you know, I needed to be able to attend. And there's just a lot of our folks aren't able to do this. And I don't know a better anchor or a better place to start that effort than right here in Indian Head. And quite frankly, hopefully, once Indian Head's in good shape, it expands, okay? It should then be able to go from there out to the airport, out to Bryan's Road, just for this whole entire end of the county. So when I tell you I'm excited about this, there's a reason that I'm excited about it. And there's been so many people involved. It's refreshing. There's been just support from every part of our community. And I can't even start naming names. There's that many people that have, you know, been helpful on this thing. So the one thing I wanted to say specific, because there's been some confusion over the Velocity Center versus what right now we're calling the Velocity Park. And so I think Dr. Murphy and her team have done a good job of explaining what the Velocity Center is, okay? But one of the pictures that we have on the end is not laid in stone, I want to say that. But it's a concept that we have that we're going to be talking to the town about, of where we would locate other buildings that could house all types of different things. And we've got a lot of interest. You know, some of that we're hopeful that it's amenities, because the town probably needs some more amenities to go along with the ones that they have. Some of it's probably going to be, you know, more business. I have a strong feeling that's related to the base and the activities of the base. I think, again, my sense is, I'm not the Navy, that's needed, and there's going to be some things that happen there. There could be another hotel there, you know, that would support the activity of Indian Head. There'll probably, again, I believe there'll be 3 more buildings there, maybe a smaller building that sits out front somewhere. One of the biggest things we're trying to protect is the view to the Velocity Center, to make sure when people come into town that you can easily see it. So we're not going to stack a bunch of buildings, you know, up on the front of the road. And hopefully this is a beginning. You know, I would say that, you know, we're just one group. You know, I hope that other people come in town with more money than I've got, you know, to do more things to make this place successful. You know, as an update, we have the property across the street tied up that I hope will tie into this theme, which was the old grocery store and the pharmacy store. And there's not residential plan for these parcels. It's all some type of commercial business use. So if you know somebody that's looking for space, you know, be more than glad to talk to them. So I want to thank quite a few people in this room for making this a success. Okay, thank you.
I'd like to take a moment before I open the floor to any who would like to speak to recognize who is here. 2 of my members of the Board of Trustees are here. Chair Ted Harwood, Trustee Lois DiNatale, who is just retired from working on the base. Of course, you know the mayor is here. We were honored by Delegate Deborah Davis. We have Commissioner Coates here. We have Dr. Kim Hill from the Charles County Public Schools. We have Captain Scott Kraft from the base. We have Tom Evans from Commerce. Gretchen Hardman from Governor Hogan's office. Terrence Taylor from Steny Hoyer's office. Vince Hungerford from the Military Alliance Council, Mark Belton, County Administrator, Betsy Burrian, Chamber Executive, and I'm sure I forgot some people, and I apologize ahead of time. But it takes all of us to come together and to make something like this come to fruition. And it's been quite a process. And at this point, oh my gosh, see, I knew I would. Darrell, I forgot to mention you. We've got, you're right in front of me. We've got Charles County Economic Development, which has been a very important partner. At this point, I'd like to open it up for anybody who would like to speak to this project. Questions, comments, whatever you would like. The microphone is yours.
Good morning. I'd just like to say that this project has been a long time coming, and it has truly been a partnership and collaboration with all partners. I don't want to restate sort of the economic development proposition. Charles, you've done an excellent job at that, and I want to thank you, Charles, for believing in that proposition. Because it is that sort of belief and willingness to partner that we can realize this activity. And of course, the college has taken the lead on that. And so, you know, when I was driving in this morning, I looked over and I saw the Velocity Center, and it's like, wow, this has really taken shape, and it is happening. Because it has been a process and a collaborative process. And with collaboration, things can happen. And I think that that's the lesson here, is that as long as we collaborate, as we have been, things can happen. And Tommy, we go back a little while on this, and I know you're a believer in collaboration, and clearly, Charles, you are a believer in collaboration, and so I just want to thank you and everyone else who participated in this process, to include the mayor and everyone else who participated. So, thank you.
Good morning. I'm Terrence Taylor. I'm with Congressman Steny Hoyer's office. I just wanted to come up and just to say, on behalf of Congressman Hoyer, to thank you all for continuing to move this project forward, continue to tap into the innovation that we need in order for the Navy to do what they need to do in order to protect our warfighters. Because when we look at it around here, when I was driving in, also I've been driving in, I see how this western part of Charles County is transforming. To look at when I first came out here, we had a backhoe, and Senator Middleton was in the back of it, bringing it down, and now to come through here, as Darrell said, yes, to see the Velocity Center take place and to see Charles' vision as the park grow. And I think in one sense that by all of us continue to work together to make sure that we can bring this vision into a reality, because it was a concept. Now we came out and we tore down the building, and now we're gonna go into with the shovel in the ground in August. And then after that, there will be a structure there. There'll be young people developing entrepreneurship, dealing with robotics, cyber. The Navy will have also another space, as Dan said. He's not getting any MILCOM money, so he needs some more space. And so we have to. But the better yet, that in our country that we have, there's an untapped asset. And those are young people here that have some ideas that we can help to nurture and create it. They can be entrepreneurs. The next thing that then you see businesses growing from this part of the region. People don't have to relocate to Northern Virginia, to Reston. You can have that synergy here where you can work and play and stay in this particular area. So let us continue to move forward on this, and whatever, as Congressman Hoyer said, that his office is here to help and be a partner with you here. And thank everyone for your participation and your contribution to this project so far.
I have to say, I'm certainly out of my comfort zone, but that's okay, because I would be remiss if I didn't come up and speak of this, because I feel like I've been a part of this investment for some time since it had surfaced. I just want to add that as from the Board of County Commissioners, we're excited that this project has come to fruition. Like everyone else, I'm driving by and I see now walls up, and I'm thinking like, oh my God, this is really coming to fruition. This is really happening. So I was excited and great to see that. I do want to add that it is a great investment. It is a collaborative effort. I do want to add that the collaboration also, what we want to mention is also the MAC. I think we mentioned everybody, but I want to include the MAC as well with that collaboration. The investment, the Board of County Commissioners, as you know, just approved a $300,000 budget over a 3-year time frame for this important endeavor and effort into the program. And for that, we're excited to be a part of it. I also want to add that, Tom, you're right, it just keep coming, and it will. We are in support of the efforts here. And Charles, I appreciate the conversation we had about looking into the future, into the park effort, and we're very supportive of that effort as well. I'm not going to be long-winded. Keep this short. Brandon, I like your philosophy, and it comes from the movie Field of Dreams. You build it, and they will come. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Betsy Burian. I am the CEO, and very proudly so, of the Charles County Chamber of Commerce. We have partners within this building, within this county, the base, certainly, the college, the county government itself, the MAC, which we're very pleased to have had as an important role in getting underway. And most especially our current business members like CMI that bring opportunities and promise to the county, to our residents, to the kids who are growing up here who may choose to stay here and have good jobs and good futures and a beautiful place and a beautiful environment in which to raise their families. So I think that what I would like to say is we all have a very good reason to be Charles County proud. Let's do that.
Good morning. So I guess I'm representing the state part of this partnership, and I'm really excited about this. The word I keep hearing is partnerships. As a county commissioner for the past 8 years, you guys know that Indian Head was often left out. So against all odds, we gathered together, and we are turning Indian Head around. Thanks to your leadership, Brandon, where are you? Right in front of me. Thanks to your leadership, and thank you so much for all of you for sticking up against all odds and holding hands. And I'm getting all nostalgic about it. You know, holding hands. And what will you be able to do now with the commissioner board that's willing to work with you? I mean, that's amazing. Thank you.
I can't contain myself. I have to jump in on this pile, right? Because this is an exciting pile to jump in and be a part of. Let me confess, I am forever an optimist and an opportunist. And so this is right in my wheelhouse. And it is so exciting to have been a part of this and to witness it and to encourage it and to benefit from it and to know that we are just beginning to see the beginning. It is truly exciting and it's truly important, and I am just affirming what everyone has said from my own personal perspective. And we are all in on this because it's that important and it's that exciting. Couple thoughts, someone said anchor, and I love that concept, an anchor, but it's also an anchor and it's an engine, right? It is a starter motor to a flywheel of change that is going to be self-fulfilling once we get it going, right? So both the anchor concept as well as that starter motor that's going to turn a bigger flywheel that's going to be in perpetuity, right? That's exciting. That's exciting. The idea of spillover benefit, right? Spillover out of the base, and this idea that together we're stronger. If you were to capture everything I've said over the last couple years, probably the most popular things I've said is we are stronger together, and I'm saying that to us as a command on the base, but also us as a community and us in this idea. We're stronger together. And to grow a greater sense of us, right? This idea of shared purpose, that's fuel, that's inspiring, that is compelling. So that's what this is about. Last thought is, so I'm a preacher's kid, and I'm a preacher's kid. So I got a lot of pastor pulpit kind of in my genes. And my grandfather said something that has always stuck with me. He says, we order our lives not by what we see, but by what we believe. We order our lives not by what we see, but by what we believe. And I think this is absolutely illustrative of people ordering their lives by what they believe in and what they will pursue and what they will actualize, and we're doing that together. So thank you. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Barbara Ives, and I'm from the Southern Maryland Naval Alliance. And how appropriate that I follow the Navy. So thank you very much, Captain Kraft, for that great introduction and support, and what you say about the nice partnership. And the key word here is partnerships. A wonderful partnership. Southern Maryland Navy Alliance supports partnerships, supports the Navy. And the partnership between the College of Southern Maryland and the Navy, what a great fit. It's such a win-win situation, and to see folks like yourself that are supporting the community the way you do, that's what this alliance is about. The MAC, the Military Alliance Council, who's here, there's a number of folks here, the work they do and support of what they do here in Charles County, it means a lot. Their work with the Navy in building this program, working with the Southern Maryland Alliance, which is an alliance supporting all of Southern Maryland. They do a lot of lobby work for the community. I know Terrence is here, I saw Deborah's here, and there's a lot of folks supporting on the state side as well as the federal side, and all matters. So it's important to say and recognize the great work that's been done, the initiatives that have been put in place, how the things are coming to fruition, and all that is a reflection of hard work that's been placed in it, and a vision. And I just want to recognize that vision and the importance of this vision and what it's going to do for this community, just as Brandon mentioned, what it can do for this community and what it can do for the college and for the Navy. It's going to be a great partnership, great things, innovation. Thank you.
I've heard MAC mentioned a couple times here today. Most of you may or may not know what MAC stands for. It's a Military Alliance Council. It's an arm of the Chamber. The mission of the MAC is to support the base and the town for an upcoming BRAC, if there is such a thing, and we hope not. But anyhow, the BRAC is working with the town and with the college and with the county to make things happen here. I'm a local yokel, and I went to school on the base in elementary school. They didn't have an elementary school in Charles County over here. I worked on the base for a little over 30 years. I know what they do back there, and what they do is very essential to the security of our nation. When I was a kid, houses were from here all the way to the river. We had grocery stores. We had car dealerships. We had all kinds of things. So it's amazing and gratifying to see the community and the region come together to put Indian Head back on the map. So if you folks want to help, call the MAC. Thank you very much.
Well, we've heard the word partnership repeatedly, and it's so wonderful to see how so many people have come together to really help make this a reality. And I've never, unlike Captain Kraft, I am not an optimist. I go to the worst case scenario and I work backwards. When I first heard about this project from Tommy Luganbill, I started thinking of every reason not to do it. And there is no compelling reason not to do this. Because what we've got are really talented people who are really committed and believe in it. And I've always believed that when you get folks together who believe in something, it will come together beyond all odds. And it has. You know, the struggles aren't over. There's still a whole lot to be done. And right now, we're all kind of giddy because we're starting to see walls. Imagine what it's going to be when it actually opens its doors. It is heady stuff. I want to thank you all for coming out. This is a powerful project. We're excited about it at the college. It's one thing that we have learned in doing our research about these kinds of projects, which doesn't help our narrative in explaining what it is that other folks who have attempted things like this have said, don't over-program it, because it's going to evolve into something that's much better than you imagined. So give yourself that wiggle room. And that makes sense to me, because innovation is not something that should be programmed. So by having that wiggle room, by having that ambiguity, it makes it difficult for us at times to explain to people really what we're doing. But that doesn't matter. It'll come together, and what we're doing is really important. And what we're doing is, yes, for the Navy, for the college, but most importantly, for the community. And some of you who know me know that I have BRAC baggage. I moved here from Monmouth County, New Jersey, and I saw what happened to that community when Fort Monmouth closed and went to the Aberdeen Proving Ground. It was devastating. Those civilian jobs disappeared overnight. And over the next few years, what we saw was just an erosion of anything that was left. And it hasn't come back. And there are people there who live in that community, who have ties to that community, who are really, really struggling. And nobody's figured out what to do. And all of the revitalization plans there have not worked because the devastation was that great. Mayor, I applaud you for having that proactive revitalization plan. We're going to strengthen ourselves here, and we will not see the devastating effects of a BRAC because the community is coming together with the base in support of each other. And so good things are going to happen. I thank everyone for being here today. You are all partners, and it takes us all. So thank you so much. Take some time, ask some questions. There's lots of people here that you want to talk to. Eat the rest of the food, and we'll be seeing you around. Thank you.